Well, Sahura will be with you with the global market outlook and the week ahead, which is going to be the week 45 of 2025. As always, let's start the week with reviewing of what we had previous week, and then we can go forward and check the week ahead. Last week, while we had too many economic data, however, the central bank's meetings were at the central stages. On the other hand, the APEC meeting in Southwest Asia it was very important, especially with meetings that we had, and also any additional meetings that we had as a guest between Mr. Trump and Mr. Xi, presidents of United States and China, and also the U.S. president meeting with the president with the South Korean with the South Korean president, and also with the Japanese new Prime Minister, Mr. Keishi. Overall, the data and the news that which came out from these meetings, it was about the new somehow the agreements about the trade talks, the new deals about the trade talks, which could support somehow the markets. Market get accept that as a positive news, and somehow the stock markets get supported by that. Especially while we had earnings reports, that the earnings also they were amazing. We had amazing earnings, which increase the market attention with the how, but you shouldn't forget that already we had almost all most important companies, and especially the tech companies, which they already reported, they published the report, and in the week ahead with the reports that we have, we will not have such a big companies that like Google, like Meta, like Nvidia, all of them they already published their earnings, so the markets will be slightly more cautious. About the central banks, on Wednesday, we had a Canadian and US central banks meetings. Both of them, they cut the rates by 25 basis points. It was both in line with expectation. In Canada, after Mr. Trump's threat of the additional 10% tariffs, the Canadian Central Bank decided to change its position of holding the rates to cut the 25 basis point. In the United States, while the market was firstly pushing this Federal Reserve to cut their rates by 25 basis points, that understood the market position that if they continue cutting the rates with the more dovish policies, the bubble probably can create it around the tech companies, especially while we know that they are already overpriced, and with more support, they can get really more overpriced, and it can increase the market risk. That's why the central bank, while they cut the rates, they somehow came to soften this idea with the speech and press conference that Mr. Powell had right after that, and somehow they softened the market, lowered the more dovish tendency. In Japan, the central bank hold the interest rate in line with the market expectation. The new governor, Mr. Takeshi, and his administrator, they are supporting, they love the supporting ideas, and they're somehow the dovish in support. They want to support the market. They believe that the Japanese economy needs more support, especially looking now that the inflation is not so high in Japan, but at the same time the income also is not so high. So the average income is less than average inflation, which is somehow the risk in the Japanese economy. Later at the same day, we had the central bank meeting in Europe. ECB also hold the rates at the 2%. So it means that in the first day we had two central bank meetings, both they cut the rates. In the second day we had two central banks meetings, both of them they hold the rates. European inflation is around 2.1, 2.2% in line with market expectation. On the other hand, the economic growth, the GDP somehow is fine, about 1.3% quarterly for the third quarter and 0.2% quarterly. It says that the economy is moving forward slowly with unemployment rate around 6.3%. So the central bank decided to hold the rate at the current levels and see what's going on. They mentioned that they will decide based on the data that they will have later on, and the data based. I mean, this next decision will be data based. Next week, we will have the most important. We'll have the PMI numbers, the purchasing managers index data from most developed and developing economies. Additionally, we'll have more data to watch. On Monday, the PMI numbers will be for the manufacturing sector. In most economies, it's expected to slow down slightly. or hold the current condition. While on Wednesday, when we're going to have the service sector, we expect to see the holding the current situation, current condition, or slightly increase. In China, while the market expecting to see the manufacturing index slightly to ease, they expect the same thing for the service sector. I am not supporting that personally. I do believe that the service sector in China should increase in October. However, we should wait slightly more to have the final data in the second half of the month. In Turkey, inflation is expected to slightly ease from 3.2% to 2.8%, which is, again, I don't think that it's going to happen. The inflation is slightly higher than these levels, and annually it's expected to slow down from 33.3 to 33.2. Maybe in annual it's slightly ease like by 0.1%, but monthly it shouldn't be increased that big. About the PMI numbers, we talk on Tuesday. We're going to have the central bank meeting in Australia, where we expect to see the RBA to hold the rates at 3.6%. Inflation recently started to increase, while geopolitical tensions and also can be the treatment of the higher inflation. On the other hand, with the recovery in China, the economic activity is also somehow acceptable in Australia and New Zealand. That's why both of them, this week Australia and next week New Zealand, we expect to hold the rates at the current levels. Australia will hold the rates at 3.6%. We're going to have the more data from other economies as well, especially in United States. If the government shutdown ends, we're going to have the trade data, we're going to have the GLTs, and then Friday NFP numbers, but it's all depend on the government shutdown. If the government shutdown ends, during the week, we're going to have the video about that, and we'll talk what will happen and what's the situation and condition. And based on the new updates and new condition, we can give the updates about the market. Don't forget that during this week, what is very important is the speeches. We're going to have too many speeches from the central banks members from Japan, United States, Canada, and European Central Bank, especially the BOE, especially the ECB and Federal Reserve speakers will be very, very, very important to be watched. On Wednesday, we're going to have the service PMIs, as mentioned earlier. The service PMI expected to hold the current rate or slightly increase. We're going to have to from most of the lot of developing economies. And Thursday, where we have the BOE meeting, Bank of England, expected to hold the rates at 4% with 8 positive vote for that, while 1 vote is expected to be given for rate cut. British inflation is around 4%, 3.8% is way higher than the central bank's target, which means that the BOE or Bank of England will have no choice but to hold the rates for now and wait until the inflation somehow gets under control. It's expected to see the inflation slightly lower in October and November, and then further in January. That's why in 2025, we don't expect any rate cut for now. Probably in January, we're going to have the rates cut starting in United Kingdom. Yeah, that's the most important data which we're going to have. Inflation numbers from Mexico also on Friday should be watched, while the unemployment rate and labor market data in Canada will be published on Friday, and we expect to see the unemployment rate unchanged at 7.1 or slightly increased to 7.2%. Generally, the data from the United States is going to be very important, but it's depend all on the markets, on the Fed opening, the government's opening. Let's wait and see. We'll have the updates when the government shutdowns ends. Looking at the charts, we can see the market risk is still high with the VIX at 1920, which generally the market risk is so high, and we can expect to see the higher levels. When the higher risk you have in the market, the risk you can have the pressure on the risky products. US dollar index, as I say, I mean, got the demand above 99.50. We expect to see the dollar index between 98, 99 and a slightly like uptrend around these areas. Generally, for the gold, despite stronger dollar, The gold also holding its demand position as the stock market is taking more pressure, and we will have some money out of the stock market, which they are looking for the safe haven, while the Bitcoin also is under pressure. As for the silver, also we have almost the same situation. Silver trading around 48. We expect to see the slight movement with slight uptrend tendency for both gold and silver. As for energy market, with the geopolitical tensions going on, with the latest nuclear test and the nuclear race between the powers across the world, we can see the market risk is high, and that can hold the energy price higher as well, especially for the gas price, where you can see that about $4.20 for the gas, for the natural gas, which is really high price for now, especially in the winter when the market generally needs more. As we can see the trend in the stock market side movement with the lower tendency, especially knowing that the most important earnings already finished, and in the week ahead we will not have such a big eye supporting earnings and reports there. So we can expect the same side movement with the lower tendency for central for the all indexes, S&P 500, Dow Jones, and the Nasdaq, all of them. As for the cryptocurrency market, the risky market, the risk is high and the market is in a downtrend. As long as the 113,000 is not confirmed under 113,000, the price is moving lower. Between 113 and 118 is the side movement, and any uptrends should be covered, should be confirmed above only 118. Otherwise, the market continues its downtrend, overall downtrend, which is started from mid of last month. Yeah, that was the market condition and our expectation. Hope it was useful for you. Talk to you again next days. Have a good day. Bye-bye.